Hey everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. In today's episode, we have Matt from Youngstown, Ohio back on the show. Matt wanted to talk more about his Dogman encounter and share his new channel with you guys called Planet 412. I honestly could not imagine what it would be like to have an up-close Dogman encounter like that, and if you guys have not heard Matt's Dogman encounter story, I will post a link to it in the description. If you guys enjoy listening to cryptid encounters, please like and subscribe. I need all the help I can get to keep the channel afloat, so I appreciate all the support from everyone and everyone who tuned in tonight. That really means a lot. Alright guys, let's dive into this next podcast with Matt from Youngstown, Ohio. All right, Matt, welcome back to Sasquatch Theory, and it's a pleasure to have you back on the show today. You told your Dogman encounter from Youngstown, Ohio, and it was a terrifying encounter, and the viewers loved it, and it seemed like you got on other channels, and it was a hit on there as well. I have you back on the show today so we can talk a little bit about Dogman, Bigfoot, and the cryptid subject. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good, Miguel. Thanks for having me back on. I just want you to know it was a pleasure doing, the interview with you before. It's a pleasure talking to you again. And I've done the interview on a few. I've probably done almost 15. You absolutely were one of my favorite people to work with. And you do a fabulous job on your channel. I'm just not, blowing smoke. I want everybody to know who possibly might be listening for the first time. You do an absolutely phenomenal job. I was a huge fan of your podcast before you and I worked together. So it's a pleasure being back.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have you back on. Matt, if you would, could you do a recap of your Dogman encounter? You don't have to tell the full story, but just kind of what happened, what you saw, and what transpired after that encounter.
Sure. So I was about 14 years old. This was around about 1987. I had just gotten out of 8th grade. I was getting ready to go into my freshman year in high school. And so my friends and I, not our entire group, but 4 of us, were together the day that this experience happened. And it happened in the steel mills of Youngstown, Ohio, which were just old, unused, rusting, falling apart, dilapidated buildings. And, there is, and I always bring this up, there is a working newer one that is there, but the original, when you would pull into the area on the highway in Youngstown, if you cross certain areas, you would see just how massive these old steel mill areas were. They have demolished quite a bit of the area to make room for other things, and this one new steel mill. And so the blast furnace is where the experience happened with me and my friends, and it is no longer there. They demolished that as well. So we were there, and we would frequent the steel mills, and some people might wonder why. It was just, we went everywhere. It was late 80s. We went everywhere on our bikes, and we would go to all the suburb areas. But, my friends and I grew up on the north side of Youngstown, which is where the city is. And we liked to frequent the areas around the old steel mill, not just the steel mill, but, a lot of the areas down there. And we would just investigate, or we would fish out of the Mahoning River. And, we just really liked to be down there. But our favorite was going down to the steel mills. No one, for the most part, would be down there because it was unused. And some of the things that were very dangerous about going down there was, first and foremost, the place itself was just falling apart, as I said. So you'd be inside of a building, and once in a while, maybe just from noise of what we were doing, would cause enough of a vibration in the area or the air itself. And some of these buildings were ready to fall apart, so you get big chunks of concrete and stuff that would fall. So just in terms of that, it was very dangerous. In other ways, it was dangerous because, one, you would get some people down there that you would not want to run into, specifically like gang members, which was huge in the United States during this time. Well, it was very big there too. They would go down there sometimes and do, some unsavory things. That is really putting it lightly. And we're talking like murdering people that have problems with other gang members, hiding bodies, drug deals, or putting things there. And then a lot of things were revolving around sometimes the mob, which was huge in the Youngstown, Ohio area for years. In fact, Youngstown, Ohio was known as one of the most connected, smaller cities in the Ohio area. And some things that were also down there, excuse me, than the gangs and possibly mafia, was homeless people. For the most part, we never saw any, but we had heard that some of them were not, safe to be around, so we avoided them. And then the most important was, and I apologize about I have a sinus thing going. We have snow for the first time coming. We would run into, once in a blue moon, but definitely see all the time, were wild dogs, packs of wild dogs, which anybody that's from big cities and have areas that are, as I said, dilapidated or falling apart and stuff like that. You look at Cleveland, Ohio, for instance. They have a lot of areas that buildings are empty, or some of the areas of the city, they have problems with wild dogs in there. And they will attack people, they will kill people. We had found out that during this area of time, Ohio in general was not as bad as Youngstown was, but there were areas in Youngstown, Ohio, during this time, unfortunately, got the moniker numerous times as Murder Town, USA, because per capita, even though Youngstown was much smaller and still is compared to, like Cleveland or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or, we're right in the middle of both of those cities. So Youngstown is an hour from Cleveland and an hour from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So right in the middle. And, there was just a lot of things that went on. And like I said, with the wild dogs, even like Detroit, they have problems too. So we tried to avoid a lot of things. And, we would bring weapons down there, not to shoot anything. We never did, or use them. We just needed to make sure we were taken care of. So, again, long story short, we were down there one night. We had one building that, again, was in the blast furnace area. This was a 4-floor building. The middle of the room, on the first, you could walk to it and look up all the way to the ceiling. It would they had basically just, open floor in the middle of each floor, from the second to the third. And then on the fourth, you had ceiling above you. So as I was saying, if you were on the fourth floor, you had a ceiling above your head. Above that ceiling, obviously, was the roof area. And you could get up to the roof. There was a short flight of stairs from the fourth floor you could take to go outside. Or if you were on, say, the third or fourth floor, you could go on the side of the building. There was an opening where there was a fire escape. The fire escape was also dilapidated from the second to the first floor. There was an area that was broken off and just laying in a heap at the bottom. So you couldn't go on the fire escape. You couldn't leave. It would take you, however, up to the fourth floor. So that was how it was set up. And we would have huge fires in the middle of the first floor on the ground, and the flames would go extremely high sometimes. But since the middle of the room, there was no floor, it obviously didn't go all the way up to the fourth. But, this night we had a gigantic fire going. And what was going on was we started to hear wild dogs in the distance. We went outside and saw these wild dogs run by the building. They didn't pay any attention to us. And we ended up hearing these wild dogs start to immediately get into an altercation with something, which we thought was them. It was not. After a couple seconds of hearing these dogs start to attack something, which we thought again was themselves, each other, we started to hear a louder, deeper, huge something that sounded like almost dog-like. And we ended up seeing a couple of the dogs thrown over this pile of what's called coke in the steel making process that I guess just gets the fire hotter and purifies. And I don't know all the specifics, but they had huge piles of them. They were thrown over this. Just on the other side was what was going on. But since this was so big, we could not see from where we were standing what was on the other side. Also, which I forgot to mention, when you were looking from where we were on in this blast furnace building, just beyond the building, feet from the building, and you can see, and I believe on your video that we did our interview together, you can actually see that had train tracks that were very close to the building. And trains would go right by, and then just beyond that train track was these piles of this coke material. So after we see some dogs thrown over, some were hurt, they ran away crying. One was injured very badly, like something had cut it open on the side. Blood all over the ground, dogs yelping, running away. And what happened was something that changed all of our lives, all four of us. Something crawled up to the top of this pile, and it was the largest, most incredible sight I've ever seen to date. It looked like a absolutely gigantic wolf almost, but different. It had different shape to it and things, but it was so big. And I always say this, is it looked fake. And all four of us later, and obviously through the years, have discussed, that night and what we thought. And we all agreed it just didn't look real. And how could something be alive and look like that and, be real? But it was. And what happened was this thing was watching these dogs run away. And what happened next was it basically lifted its leg and it did its business. Very obvious. It was a boy after doing that. And it was very disturbing. And, we were all taken aback and shocked, mostly because, for me at least, um, the stream that this thing had urinated with was so powerful. And you could tell the stream itself, just widthwise, was monstrous. So if you're looking at something that looks like it doesn't exist because it's so big, and then it does its business, and that as well is reinforcing to you, we're not dreaming. What we're seeing is real, and you're trying to convince yourself this thing's real. Everything was running through all of our heads, which again, I'm saying that because we've all discussed this so many times. Unfortunately, two of my friends are gone. They passed away. The other friend of mine is still alive. Um, he has a lot of psychological issues and problems. And, I've asked him all the time through the years, especially more so now because of the situation of having someone else, you know, corroborate what I say, and he just refuses. He has a very large, successful company, and he stands to lose a lot. So I have never, ever put pressure on him to do it. Um, I respect his decision. He's afraid if he comes out and he says it, that all of the clientele he has will no longer be there. And, what's more important to me, just me, which doesn't matter what I think or, if he wants to tell it, um, it's just important to me that number one, he's okay. Number two, that, him and I discuss the same thing, and that it exists and we agree. And I just want him just to be all right. He wishes he could discuss it. Um, he's not so sure he could physically just say it. He goes back there whenever I have been on with interviews. And he said, Matt, every time I see it, I shake. I have problems. And, he sees psychiatrists, and he has counselors, and he's done a lot of things I have. Like, I have gone and spoken to a couple different priests through the years that were my church's priests, and he just is still suffering to this day. Monster, severe PTSD. He tells me all the time, I wish I could do it. I just don't think I could. So I don't pressure him. It's not my place to tell him what he should or shouldn't do. And he said, I hope maybe someday I can do it. But he's just, he's a business owner that's doing well, and he will sign big time contracts with people from other countries. And, he doesn't want to lose these contracts, because in the end, even though he wants people to know that they're real and everything like that, if he stands to lose everything financially and his business, and we both lost two of our buddies, not from that, but it's just there's only two left, and he only cares honestly about our friendship, and that we're still here. And my other two buds that are gone, um, I believe that they would be joining me right now. Those that know me have, I'm sure, listened to my interview with you and other ones, and they know exactly who, at least when I say my best friend is, and he's happy that I have had the ability to tell it. He just just isn't there. And he said, if I retire and I'm not doing, I have my business anymore. And he said, then I will do it with you. He said, but right now I just am not in the position to not care about losing, multi-million dollar contracts with companies. So I don't begrudge him. I don't blame him. It was extremely hard for me to decide to do this. Um, I used to only go by my first name, and it slowly, as I did more, changed my mind. And I love him. I don't blame him. Um, so, getting back to the story, experience. I apologize if anybody's heard my most recent interviews with people. One of the things that I personally push away from is saying it's a story, because I honestly do categorize made up entertainment, or unfortunately lies, that I've heard that are very cringeworthy. And I've heard a number of ones that have drawn my attention, and I think that they are real experiences. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm very serious just about how it's called, because, story can be just that. It can be just a story. Well, again, I put stories where they need be in that column, and then when I think they're real, I call them experiences. And a lot of people agree, thankfully, with me. They more than ever have seen my most recent one, and I can't tell you how overwhelming it has been. Not only just how many people have seen it, and it's still just going crazy every day, but the number that say that they believe me and can tell I'm not lying. And another good thing about my most recent interview is that there have been two for sure. I was told there's three. I haven't seen the third. And if you go to the comments for What Lurks Beneath with Josh Nanokio, who I'm very close with now, you will see people that say, I am a human behavioral specialist. I went to school for it. I have my degree in it. That's what I do for a living. So you have real experts in reading human beings, if they're lying or if they give tells or anything. And there's two for sure I've read. I haven't seen the third, but that it for me is really important, because let me explain something, Miguel. One thing everybody can guarantee, as time goes by, like, I am releasing my own channel soon, and I already recorded my first episode, and when that is released, I want everybody to know that when you hear me discuss something and I say, this is, for real, this is how I feel, and I believe this is true, or, I'm just a very straightforward, honest person. And if I'm being sarcastic, or, I'm joking, people will know. But if I'm being serious and I say something, just know that then that's the way he is. That's what he means, and then it's true in his opinion. So,
Do you think the old steel mill is haunted? And I remember you mentioned there was a lot of bad things that happened in that area. Have you heard any paranormal encounters from that area, or any other Dogman encounters?
you know what? It's ironic that you bring that up, Miguel, because since this last episode that Josh Nanokio did on What Lurks Beneath, I have gotten contacted by a number, just tons of people, but specifically touching on what you just asked. Some of the messages I've gotten have, in my opinion, been legitimate types of things because of what they've said to me, and that they're from the area. I've gotten some messages from security personnel. Like one gentleman works security down in that area and was around, in that time frame, saying that they saw things down there, that they've had experiences like, he said, they would be working the security detail around that blast furnace area, which makes me wonder if maybe, there's maybe an Indian burial ground somewhere, but they would hear things in the woods, and it would, follow them. And as they would move, they would start to hear the breaking of branches and leaves moving and being kicked or anything, or they would hear other things. And they said it was very obvious that there were things in there that they had no idea what they were, but they would get followed and heard growls and seen different things real quick. So that was good to hear. But yes, again, obviously, as I say that, I have heard. So yeah, there's been reports. My best friend, who I talk about in all of my interviews, and I mentioned it with you, I'm sure. Um, his dad, without me exactly saying, anybody that again knows me from the area is going to know who I'm talking about, but he was very important in the city. And he had also, after the initial yelling at us for being down there because of the danger of not only the buildings falling apart, but again, the people that frequented it for nefarious reasons and other things. He basically gave us the impression, and my friend, best friend, said, he 100% believes what we're talking about. That there have been officers around that time who had witnessed, shortly, just in glance, seeing something along the lines what I had gave the interview for, and that he was very upset we were down there, and just warned us not to talk about it. That besides being a big joke or anything, that he didn't want any of our classmates going down there and getting killed just from falling in a building somewhere. So multiple messages again since the 20th of this year of October. And people just saying, again, that they've heard things, they've seen some strange things, have had, feeling of being watched, where times when it gets super quiet, and even though you're in a wooded area and things like that, you
Do you
you would
think
feel
have you ever heard of anybody mention like groups of people doing satanic worship there or anything with the occult? Have you ever thought
that
about that?
actually. That actually, since you just brought it up, it's so funny, man. Did you hack my phone? Actually, yeah. One of the other things that another individual who contacted me on Messenger was, when he was working security, and they would be either in twos or threes. Um, he said that, um, what, Miguel, I just went blank. What was that question again?
Do you think people did satanic worship
Yes,
there
yes,
or
yes,
the
yes.
occult?
So, and as I was just saying, the individual I spoke to that said he was and still is a security for down there, said that on top of them having, some experiences of hearing things, feeling like they're being watched, he said that they did come upon in some of the buildings when they were making rounds, finding pentagrams on the ground, candles around those areas that had been, melted, and there was basically next to none left, and all kinds of writings, around the pentagram. And of course, then they said what was freaky as well, they said they don't know if it really was, but they found areas around this pentagram that looked like blood. He said, we never found any dead animals or things that would say that they had been sacrificing anything. But he said 100% there definitely were people that would frequent down there who were having some kind of ritual. So, yes. And just to real quick finish the experience, we had this thing that was on top of that pile. It was watching the dogs run away, and my one friend behind me took a step back, hit a metal makeshift wall that we had made. It caused a loud, scraping of heavy metal on concrete. It snapped its head to look at us. First thing we noticed was its eyes were shining super bright, an orange, yellow, amber type of color. It then stood up on two legs, growled at us, which now I believe, and my other friends, we looked it up. We were hit with infrasound. And the reason I know that we were is because I immediately felt it through my chest. It felt like everything inside of me had jiggled, and not in lightly. It felt like, almost like I was inside of a speaker that was set for the ultimate bass. And I vibrated inside. I felt things vibrate, and then my legs felt like they were in concrete. My other friends, some of them got sick, almost passed out. After it stood up and changed our entire world forever, it started walking towards us, and we somehow made our way back inside slowly because we were again feeling these effects from whatever it threw at us, and again we believe it was infrasound. And we went inside up to the third floor. This thing ended up coming in and smelled the air, ended up after a couple minutes seeing us. There were some supernatural things that happened, like its front left. It looked like it had raccoon hands. This thing was gigantic again, looked like it was fake. And it was black as black can be, had a white stripe running down the back of its neck to its tail, was ungodly large. It was just so humongous, and it was shaped in some ways like a polar bear. The one thing I'll always remember, other than the eyes, was its arms. Its arms were so long that it like right now, the hairs on my whole body are standing up. I have goosebumps. Its hands, while it was standing up, and I never saw it stand straight, so it had the telltale like dog legs, looked like a giant's dog legs with just muscles everywhere. But again, the arms were just so overly long that it literally could scratch its lower part of, I mean, if you want to call it ankle. They went, its tips of fingers went down to its feet. And it ended up starting to run up the stairs after us on all fours. And one of my buddies who is still alive, he has severe mental issues to this day. He's on different prescriptions. He sees a counselor every week. At least he told me 3 to 4 times a week. He sees obviously a psychiatrist every week. And he has, as I did, he has sought, religious counsel as well, and still occasionally does, as do I. This thing started running back up the stairs, not back. It started running up the stairs on all four, and my buddy, who has the issues to this day, ran up uh, as he was screaming and just completely losing it, ran up to the fourth floor and up that small flight of stairs that took him out to the roof. My other buddy, who had been to my left, ran outside to the fire escape, and you could hear even the footsteps, slamming, running up to the roof. I'm glad it didn't give way and he got hurt. I was standing probably, I don't know, 2, 3 feet from the literal top of those stairs, from the second floor to the third floor, and my best friend was to my right. And just so that everybody knows, when this thing would have hit the top of the stairs, it again would have been only a couple feet from me. It could have, when it got to the middle of the staircase, it could have jumped from there and got me. I truly believed with all of my heart that I was going to die. My cheeks are actually like getting so red right now and hot from thinking about this again. I was frozen. My best friend was frozen. I thought of real quick my family and my dog, and going to high school and playing football at the school that my entire family and generations of other cousins have gone, and has a big time football program. And my dad was a football player, and I was just there, and I was just thinking I wasn't going to be able to honor him. And I was thinking of just not seeing my family and my dog. And it was truly, in my mind, the day that not only I was going to die, all of my friends were going to die that I was with. Just as it hit the middle of that staircase, a train ended up coming on the train tracks, and it caused the attention of this Dogman werewolf to stop, look at the opening of the building, look back at us, specifically me, and it made eye contact with me. And it looked back at the opening, looked back at me. I think it did it like 3 times. It was kind of like, a double, triple take. It was obviously thinking about coming up. And it looked one last time at me and sneered and ran out. And it left the building so fast that it was incredible. In fact, there was another supernatural thing that happened when it started running down the stairs. It just physically got from the almost top of the third floor flight of stairs down to the second floor. And once it hit the staircase from the second to the first, it, for all intents and purposes, almost lost complete shape and form and left the building like a shadow, basically. And it was just the freakiest, most incredible thing I've ever seen, just the whole situation. But it definitely had something supernatural going on. And when it left the building, we were by that point screaming for help. And my other 2 friends had come down from the way that they had both tried to leave, and they were screaming and almost had smiles on their faces. And the train kept going and never stopped. And we immediately started to get the fear that we're going to die. It's just, this is it. And it didn't come back at that point, and we never saw it again. But we ended up, saying we have to leave. We have to get out of here. It's going to come back. And my one buddy who was there with us, his house, his family's house, was where we would always meet when we would go down there, because he literally lived almost exactly across the street from the opening to getting down there. So we would always meet at his house. We would start, whatever, and we would end up when we would come back always going there. And these are just like I said, my buddies that have passed, my best friend and my friend that lived across, and it would take us a half an hour to get to the blast furnace area from his house. So we had said we have to get out of here, and my one friend who fell into that makeshift wall had been really, and I'm not trying to in any way, shape, or form make fun of it. He had just basically gone, postal. He had just lost it. And he was screaming and begging us not to leave. It's out there waiting for us, which we all thought it was. But we finally decided that, we had to try and get home. And he did not want that. So, I basically had freaked on him and said some choice things and told him, if you stay, you're staying by yourself and you will die by yourself. So he ended up grabbing the back of my shirt, my best friend's shirt, and he was basically choking us as he held on. And we ended up thankfully making it back to my one buddy's house. And we just tried to tell all of our parents, and we were always together, the four of us, when we decided, hey, we're going to try and tell, my parents tonight. And no one but my best friend's dad right away believed us, because he knew the reports from the police and what they had gotten. They had gotten them, some reports that there were some homeless people that had been mauled by these quote unquote wild dogs. And it makes us wonder, even to this day, was it the wild dogs? Which they do kill people every year. But we're not so sure it was them. He even told my best friend, his son, we have questions about one of them specifically, that the coroner did not think it was wild dogs that did it. So my father knew me. At first, he just thought, we just saw something. We were 14-year-old kids, you're babies at 14, and he just thought that we saw like a bear or something like that. So my father thought it was maybe a bear with mange, a mutated dog. He just kept, saying maybe it was this, maybe it was that. But until he got the phone call from my best friend's dad to come to the house, and he pulled my father into the kitchen away from us. They spoke for roughly, I would say, 20, 30 minutes. And my dad came in and he was pale. And anybody, especially my siblings or any of my relatives or friends that knew my dad, I used to call him sometimes Steve Rogers, like Captain America, because as many have called him in the comic and on the show, an overgrown Boy Scout, that was my dad, the most honorable, straightforward, loving father, but just more, he taught us not to lie at a young age and told us being good people, honest, loyal, loving human beings, if that's all that you are when you're laying on your deathbed, that's all that matters in the end. And he, kept promises. There was no question, my dad, if somebody asked him in a serious situation, please don't discuss this with anybody. Please make sure that Matt does not, talk about this. If anything, he could end up being coined crazy. He'll never play football out there. And so he said a lot of things that scared my father, and he made sure he kept that promise. And so there's 5 kids in my family, and I am the fourth. My little brother, who is a year younger, so him and I grew up on each other's hips. The other three are older. So my oldest sister's 11 years older than me. Then my other brother is like 9. Then my closest one to me in age is my other sister, who's 6 years older than me. And then there was a lull, and then me, and then my little brother came along, and he's not a mistake, but he wasn't planned. It was a oops. And we hung out together, and we're on each other's hips all the time, and we friends and shared everything. So he just made sure that he explained to my dad and make sure he doesn't talk about it, make sure he doesn't tell it to any of his siblings, which I did not do it. And he just basically said, please promise me. I know if you promise me that you will make sure that it's taken care of and it will stay quiet. And he explained the severity of how people could get hurt, and the fact that he found out we were down there, he never knew, and I got in a lot of trouble just because of that. So he just was somebody that was, you asked him to do something and to do it a certain way, and he would for sure do what you asked him if he number one, was friends with you or believed in what you're talking about. And again, what parent, when their child that comes up to them and tells them werewolves, basically for all intents and purposes a werewolf, that they're real, and and they're talking about it, you're not going to think anything except this is crazy, this is insane. But Matt's telling the truth. And he knew, just by looking at me. I had said to him on the way home, and he was still throwing stuff at me, like, maybe you saw this, and I was basically bawling. And I told him, Dad, me, we called each other best buddy. I lost my dad about 10, 11 years ago to pancreatic cancer. My mother about 6 to 7 years ago, complications from lupus. And my dad and I called each other best buddy, and we were ultra close, especially because we both were football players. And so, long story short, my dad was somebody that was the most trustworthy human being. And when my best friend's dad asked him to promise that he would not tell anyone and bring it up and make sure even to your family you don't do it, and he made him a promise and he kept it. And my dad put the fear of God in me not to speak about it, even to my little brother. My little brother, when he was young, like our ages, he was afraid of things and when I say afraid, I'm talking, he had phobias, one of which was thunderstorms, because in 1985, I believe, in Niles, Ohio, which is about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from Youngstown. It's a suburb closer to the city of Warren, Ohio. They had a horrible tornado hit, and that's on. I had just posted recently about it, a picture of it. And we did not get any of that in Youngstown, but we heard it. The sky, of course, had turned all the colors and stuff, and so he had always remembered about the situation with that, and so he had a phobia about, even if there was a thunderstorm, he'd freak out. So if he found out from me what happened, and on top of that, telling him. And at the time, there was nothing named a Dogman. It was a werewolf. If I would have told my little brother that, and he asked me, Matt, are you serious? Are you really telling me the truth? Of course, I would tell him. He would not have slept for years. So I made the right choice, not telling him. But that's what happened. And, there had been some other supernatural things that have happened through the years, but that experience was to date the most screwed up, incredible thing that's ever happened to me. I'm glad that I know they exist. I'm glad that, my mind was opened and all of that. I am not, however, glad that my friends are gone, and some of the problems that they had stemmed from that. And, it was on top of other things that, they're no longer here. And my other friend who I mentioned, he has severe problems too. And, he's done very hard at trying to deal with the situation and that, but, he cannot do, these are his words, what I have done, thankfully. And he applauds me, and he's lost it on the phone with me numerous times, especially of late, just thanking me for doing it. And he's sorry he can't do it. And he said, hopefully someday I can. And, I just make it very clear that I'm not trying to force you to relive that event and what happened. And, it's just been an incredible, situation, and I'm just glad that there are those available that that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you for sharing that story with me, and or that encounter. And I know it's not easy to talk about.
No.
But yeah, I think that pretty much answers most of my questions. I was going to ask you what was it like staring into the face of a dog man, but I don't want to make you relive that.
No. No. Yes, please. And this goes to anyone. It does bother me. It does bring me back. But everyone can go ahead. It's not going to cause me any more of the issues that I have than I already do. And I've learned to cope for the most part. I just, when I get really deep on the subject, like I did with Josh and Pinocchio on What Lurks Beneath. I go back there, but I've learned to cope and get better at it. But looking into its face was the most disturbing, haunting, and honestly confusing um, event of my life, obviously, but it was just, again, if you can try and wrap your head around that all of a sudden you're standing there and staring into the eyes of something that is only known in myth and legend, movies, comic books, magazines like Fangoria, all of the werewolf movies, the ones that were done right. Um, it's just mind numbing. And, and to know personally that what you are seeing is real, and that all of these, well, at least a good bulk of these experiences that are told, how many people that just share them or have people on that maybe might not believe it, but then hopefully they think, well, what if this guy's really telling the truth? And a lot of comments on my interviews over the last couple of years, and people that have interviewed me have come back and called me and messaged me and said, I've gone back and watched it a couple times, and I've gotten contacted by a number of the shows that I have done in the past, telling me that they would like me to come back and discuss it, and that they rarely have guests that they 100% believe. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've
I
gotten
agree.
a lot of that, but well, and I thank you for saying that, Miguel. You have a great show with a lot of people on that tell a lot of experiences slash stories.
Hmm.
And so you can understand and appreciate, I hope, the rarity of people in mass, like it's happening, saying, my God, I believe this guy. I never thought that these things were real, but hearing him speak, I'm not an actor. I never was in a play, except maybe in my kindergarten or something, Christmas play. Like I remember singing Feliz Navidad. That's the most I've ever done in
Hmm.
my life in terms of acting. So I don't. I'm
No,
not doing this so for lies or anything, and it feels good to know people believe me.
yeah, I certainly believe you, and I can tell you're telling the truth just because it's a story with a lot of, or an encounter with a lot of detail, and I can feel the emotion when you're reliving it. And I don't know, I get a lot of people that contact me saying they've had an encounter, and they send me like a blurry picture and they say that's the encounter. They took a photo and 10 days later
Mm.
they checked it, and there's not really much storyline to it. But with yours, I can tell it's genuine. You guided us through the experience and the people that were there, the feelings you had, and what you saw in detail. So that lends a lot of
Thank you.
credibility to your account.
I really appreciate that, and again, I just wanted to tell you that I enjoyed us working together for the more detailed explanation of what happened. I always would love to collaborate with you, and like I mentioned, I'm getting ready to have my own channel drop, and I would love to collaborate with you regularly through the years. And it's just been an insane ride and things that have occurred. And I've also had other things happen, Miguel. I went to, if you don't mind me mentioning, I had gone to uh, Beaver Creek State Park in Ohio for a Bigfoot conference a few months ago. And I went with a good friend of mine. Well, I met him there for the first time. He is a Bigfoot experiencer. His name's Ernie Davio, and it is a unbelievably incredible experience that I truly do believe him. Um, you need to hear his. He's on YouTube, and you'll find him. He'll come along once in a while and do some interviews with me. And I had met him online because of some other people that I know in the cryptid field. And I met him and his wife and his dog, and I met them there for the first time. And we had dinner, and then he told me, "Hey, I'm going back to Beaver Creek State Park. All of the people that are going to be speaking at this Bigfoot conference are there. A lot of people heavily involved in the cryptid world." And I went there again, never had been there before, and I was told that the camp area that we were in, first of all, was very hard to find, not easy. But I was told that in the late 1800s or early 1900s, I'm not sure which they said, I can't recall, but there was a flash flood that had come through Beaver Creek State Park, and there was a ton of people around, I think 1,500 people that were in the park in this area. And it wasn't like it is now, it was just woods and stuff at that time. And only one person out of roughly 1,500, I'm not sure about the exact number, but I know just one person had lived. So, you doing what you do, Miguel, you can imagine that many people dying that quickly is going to leave a lot of energy and spiritual and paranormal types of things going on. And what had been told to me was there was a portal that supernatural beings like Sasquatch and others utilized to come in and out of our quote unquote world. And when I had got there, it was nighttime, or almost. I'm sorry, it was dusk, and I had a gentleman named Johnny Freeman who is a psychic, and he came up to me. You can look him up on Facebook, and he will corroborate this story 100%. He came up to me, never met the man in my life. Came up to me and kind of just introduced himself and I think I shook his hand, but he kind of also grabbed my arm. And I remember in my head, I was like, whoa, bro, kind of slow your roll. I don't really know you. And I was like, can I help you? And he apologized. He said, I'm sorry, sir. He said, my name's Johnny Freeman. And he said, I'm a clairvoyant and psychic, and I just wanted you to know that you came in, and I have really never seen an aura like yours before. And he said, I wanted to tell you that and he pointed to this trail, and he said, that's a trail that leads up to where there is supposedly a portal. And again, he said to me, there's supposedly supernatural things that come in and out and utilize, one of which are Sabe or Sasquatch. And he didn't mention Dogman or anything, but he said, I just want you to know you can do whatever you want with it. He said, but I cannot tell you how much I'm getting a message in whatever way he gets them that you need to go up there. And now I just want everyone to know, first and foremost, I am a newer amputee, unfortunately. Last April of 2022, I ended up losing my leg. So I've had 27 surgeries lifetime. A lot of orthopedic issues that stem from playing football in high school and college. And then I found out I have lupus, which causes tons of problems for orthopedic issues. And I got this problem called Charcot syndrome. It's spelled Charcot. And what it is you have three main joints in your foot and ankle. They will completely dislocate. It's usually caused from neuropathy. I have neuropathy from damaged back from someone hitting me from behind in a very bad car accident. And I ended up getting the Charcot syndrome. And unfortunately, again, long story short, I lost my right leg below the knee. So I was still really new still with that. On top of that, I again have lupus, and it's caused a lot of healing issues and things. But I had just also, it was maybe a month or less that I had my left knee replaced. There was nothing left of my knee, and I'd already had a bunch of surgeries. I've had 14 to date on my left knee, but they replaced my left knee. So I was literally using crutches. So I looked at him, and I had a crutch under my one arm, and I said, I just had my knee replaced. My other one is, I is bad, but as you see, I have a prosthetic. I just said, I don't know how I'm supposed to go up there. He said, I'm sorry, you don't have to. I just want you to know that's the message I'm getting. So after I thought about it, maybe 5 minutes at the most, I decided, you know what? Fine. And I went by myself, and it can be corroborated that I did this. And Johnny Freeman, Ernie Davio, his wife, Jack Warren, who's another guy, he actually put on the Bigfoot conference. They all saw me go up there. I was up, it took a half an hour on the sketchiest trail on earth. I was honestly horrified because you could fall over the side and either get maimed and killed. And once I got to the top, I was soaked. I looked down, maybe 300 feet down was a stream, which again, if you fell off the side, which would have been very easy if you weren't ultra careful. I also got the horrifying feeling of, oh my God, I got to go back down, which would be harder. So I sat down on a log, and took my hat off. I was soaked, as I said. And after I stopped breathing hard and I started calming down, I started talking out loud and said some things, hoping that I would make something come out, which nothing did. And after, like I said, about a half an hour, I decided, all right, well, the sun's literally, not in sight anymore. It's starting to get dark. I'm going to get out of here. But then I got the quick sense, you know what, you have your phone. There's a recorder on there, a digital recorder. I said, you know what, I'm going to give an EVP session a call. I've seen them on, all of the ghost hunters and all of the other paranormal things. So I just decided I've never done it. Why don't I give it a try? So I did it and immediately listened afterwards. And I sent you the cut. And I am telling you right now, you can tell it's not me. There is a grunt on there, as well as 4 wood knocks that happened twice. The last time it happens, it is in regards to, it's basically an answer to a question. The sounds were enhanced by Todd Erie and Brian Brock of Cryptic Creatures, who I did an interview on their show. I'm good friends with them. And Brian had really enhanced it so you could hear it better. And, I sent it to you, and I actually had Ron Moorhead. Everyone knows who he is. That did, recorded the Sierra Sounds and is one of the biggest legends in the Bigfoot community. He listened to it at the conference I was at. It was the Paranormal Roundtable Dogman and Cryptid Conference in Dallas, Fort Worth in September. And I had a lot of people listen to it. And when Mr. Moorhead specifically, and Martin Groves listened as well, who've had not only Dogman experience, he said Sasquatch. Him, Daryl Denton, and Larry Fisher, they've all, brother, and Barton Nunley, Brotherhood of the Wolf, who I'm going down to be joined into there. And they all listened. And Mr. Ron Moorhead, who's the most important, looked at me and said, you got something there. So, that was a crazy experience. I had a near-death experience. I had the artery blow in my right leg that was amputated. That was probably equally as disturbing and also worse in a way than what happened with the Dogman, because I had fallen a couple times after my amputation, and the sutures had started to come loose, and they broke in one area, which caused a couple-inch hole. I was in my wife's car. We were going home. My daughter, she was 14 at the time. My daughter was in the back seat. And again, trying to make a longer story short, my artery blew, and I lost 2.5 pints or more of blood in my wife's car. She actually ended up buying a brand new car. She had a 2020, ended up having to get another one. But I had my heart stopped for 90 seconds. I had a near-death experience where I saw my dead mom and dad, and anybody can believe that or not. It's up to you. I don't really care. It was incredible, and I've had other things happen that I can touch on in the future, but I definitely have been asked, why do you think all of these things have been happening to you? I also had a dream, real quick, I forgot to mention, about a month and a half ago, of the exact Dogman that I saw when I was 14. It attacked me in my dream and basically spoke to me through our minds, mentioning what happened to me when I was 14, that it had been there for me, and it was going to see me again someday, which again, I ironically, have plans to go down the LBL in the next few months. And I don't know if that was what it was referring to, or if it was just the most realistic dream I've ever had, which it very, very well could have been. But I'm telling you, it was the most real dream I've ever had. So people, like I said, they've been asking lately, why do you think all these things have happened to you throughout your life? I don't know. I'm definitely sensitive to just things like I notice details most people don't. I'm not a always staring down at my phone kind of person. I'm always looking around. I pay attention. I listen. Um, my wife always says, that I'm the stop the smell the flowers kind of person. I'm sensitive for some reason. I don't know why. Nothing has ever happened like the Dogman experience. I was just going to say conference, but um, it's been a wild ride. And like I said, I'm starting my own channel. I'll actually let everybody know what it's called very soon. And
Okay.
I don't know, Miguel. It's been crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way about my experiences and encounters. But yeah, I appreciate you for getting in contact with me and coming back on the show and talking about these things. And like I said, I know it's difficult to talk about, but yeah, I appreciate your time, sir. And it was a pleasure.
Thank you. As always, it is a pleasure, Miguel. And, I'm always, available for you, brother.
Okay. Yeah. You'll have to let me know when your channel's up, and maybe I can be a guest on there one day.
Oh, no, not maybe. You will be.
Okay. All right, man.
All right, man. It was good talking to you.
Yeah, it was good talking to you, and you have an excellent day.
You too, buddy. See you later.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. All right, man. Thank you very much for being a guest on the show and talking about everything that you did. And it sounds like you've been through a lot as well in your life, and I just want to wish you the best of luck on your channel. I know the things that you've been through are not easy to deal with, and you struggle with them probably every day. I'm sure you do. And I just want you to know that I'm here for you. Everyone listening is here for you. And I didn't read too many bad comments under your video. A lot of people were supporting you, and a lot of people commented that they were from Youngstown, Ohio, and they were glad that they found that video. So Matt, I know you've changed a lot of people's lives. You've opened up people's minds and eyes to the cryptid phenomenon, and I hope you continue doing so. And I just hope that God helps you through all your struggles, you and your family. And I know that what you guys encountered that day really changed your guys' life, and I know that's a lot to deal with as well. And you said it was difficult for one of your friends, and unfortunately he's not here today with us, and another one of your friends is having a really hard time dealing with it. So show your guys' support, and yeah, I appreciate everyone for watching, tuning in. If you guys can, please like and subscribe. And until the next one, take care and be safe, everyone.